Chapter 31, A Song in the Dark. The terrible foul odor of the dungeon did not bother Meg. Perhaps that is because sometimes when Uncle was giving her a good clout to the ear, he missed his mark and delivered a good clout to Meg's nose instead. This happened often enough that it interrupted the proper workings of Meg's olfactory senses. And so it was that the overwhelming stench of despair and hopelessness and evil was not at all discernible to her, and she went happily down the twisting and turning stairs. "Gore!" she shouted. "It's dark, ain't it?" "Yes, it is, Meg," she answered herself. "But if I was a princess, I would be so glittery light-like. There wouldn't be a place in the world that was dark to me." At this point, Megariso broke into a little song that went something like this. "I ain't the Princess P, but someday I will be. The P, hey he, someday I will be." Meg, as you can imagine, wasn't much of a singer. More of a bellower, really. But in her little song, there was, to the rightly tuned ear, a certain kind of music. And as Mig went singing down the stairs of the dungeon, there appeared from the shadows a rat, wrapped in a cloth of red and wearing a spoon on his head. "Yes, yes," whispered the rat, "a lovely song, just the song I have been waiting to hear." And Roscuro quietly fell in step beside Megariso. At the bottom of the stairs, Meg shouted out into the darkness, "Gore, it's me, Megariso, most calls me Meg, delivering your food. Come and get it, Mr. Deep Downs." There was no response. The dungeon was quiet, but it was not quite in a good way. It was quiet in an ominous way. It was quiet in the way of small, frightening sounds. There was the snail-like slither of water oozing down the walls, and from around a darkened corner there came the low moan of someone in pain. And then, too, there was the noise of the rats going about their business, their sharp nails hitting the stones of the dungeon, and their long tails dragging behind them through the blood and muck. Reader, if you were standing in the dungeon, you would certainly hear all of these disturbing and ominous sounds. If I were standing in the dungeon, I would hear these sounds. If we were standing together in the dungeon, we would hear these sounds and we would be very frightened. We would cling to each other in our fear. But what did Megariso hear? That's right, absolutely nothing. And so she was not afraid at all, not in the least. She held the tray up higher, and the candle shed its weak light on the towering pile of spoons and bowls and kettles. "Gore," said Mick, "look at them things. I ain't never imagined there could be so many spoons in the whole wide world." "There is more to this world than anyone could imagine," said a booming voice from the darkness. "True, true," whispered Roscuro. "The old jailer speaks true." "Gore," said Meg, "who said that?" And she turned in the direction of the jailer's voice. So in this chapter, Megariso is not afraid to go down the dungeon, even though the dungeon is pretty frightening. I mean, it's so dark, you can't see anybody, and people who are not deaf can hear all these frightening sounds. So she's not afraid at all, and she actually got close to Roscuro the rat, and now She heard for the first time somebody's voice. She heard the jailer's voice.